Hey friends, thanks for stopping by for another adventure. I hope you're all having a splendid day. But today's little venture is going to be just my kind of thoughts on all the new releases that I've read this year. I saw this recently on Books with Brittany's channel, and I figured since I've read a lot of new releases, I should just give kind of my brief thoughts on all the ones I've read, because I think I've read over 12, 15, so that's quite a few. And there's still quite a few in the second half of the year that I would really like to get to. So I think there's no need to further extend this intro, and I'm going to dive in with the first one that I read this year. I will work my way through these new releases based on the time that I pick them up, and I'll just give my brief thoughts on them, kind of what I enjoyed and what I didn't like, because on the majority of these I've done book chats, so I'll make sure to leave links to those down in the description box. The first one that I picked up this year was Lore by Alexander Bracken, and I enjoyed this. I enjoyed kind of just the different spin that it kind of took on kind of Greek mythology that I'm used to, and kind of the Percy Jackson and kind of the Heroes of Olympus series. But this one was really interesting. It's basically following kind of like an Aegon. There was an event that kind of takes down the remaining gods after they kind of betrayed Zeus, and Zeus is kind of betraying them by throwing them down into the human world. And these other kind of groups of past fallen warriors are basically hunting them down, and if they kill them, then they can take the powers of the gods and kind of use them for other means in their kind of groups. And I just enjoyed that different spin on it, and it definitely had some problems, like I mentioned in my kind of book chat. Like, some of the characters are definitely one-dimensional, and also there's points throughout the story where kind of just there's flashbacks that will kind of take you back in time, and they'll be like in the worst possible points throughout the story. Like, there'll be like a fight scene going on, and then at the end of that kind of chapter, like, it'll do a flashback, and it was just the wrong time to kind of put in that flashback. But other than that, like, I just enjoyed kind of a different take on just this Greek mythology, and I enjoyed kind of the setting of New York and the kind of gods having to fight like mortals, basically, like having their power stripped and having to survive at all costs. And it involved Athena and Apollo and who else? Artemis, and those are all my favorite kind of Greek gods. So I just enjoyed it, and it was definitely a fun read, but it definitely had some problems as well. Next up, I read Outlawed by Anna North, and I was really disappointed by this. I was expecting kind of like a female version of The Magnificent Seven, if you've seen that kind of newer movie with kind of Chris Pratt, Denzel Washington, and all those kind of famous authors or actors. I was hoping to kind of experience that in this book, but it really didn't have much action or kind of a lot of anything going on with it. Like, it would have a lot of points throughout the book where it would be kind of going over a topic, or kind of somebody would be fighting, and then the fighting would just stop and the chapter would just end, and that was it. It didn't explain like what happened at the end. It was just they made it out, and I was really disappointed by that. But it definitely covered like a lot of kind of important topics on kind of the character having to kind of leave her family after they kind of disowned her after she wasn't able to kind of have a baby, and they basically called her a witch, and she's basically on the run. And it definitely touched on a lot of different like important topics to talk about, but I was just really disappointed by it. Then we had a sci-fi read, and that was Winter's Orbit by Eberina Maxwell. And this was kind of another disappointment for me as well. I was expecting like a giant action-packed kind of sci-fi thriller, but this is mainly kind of a space opera surrounding kind of like a murder mystery between these two characters that are kind of thrown together in an arranged marriage after one of their partners is basically murdered. And to kind of keep this giant space alliance kind of from breaking out and a giant war kind of on the brink, they're basically forced together in an arranged marriage. And other than that, like, it was just them kind of having to work together and find ways to communicate even though they just met, and solve this mystery. So it definitely had some things going on, and these two characters are you definitely feel for them, because both of them have been through a lot in kind of having abuse and just having to deal with a lot of people kind of giving them crap all the time. and I enjoyed that about just the characters and their kind of journey and growth together. But I really wish that there was a bit more kind of sci-fi aspects that talked a little bit more, but it definitely could have expanded, I thought, on just the aliens and the different races that were involved. Like, it had all of them there just kind of in the background, but I really wanted a little bit more from them. And this is another one that I really would like to give another try, because I felt like I read this at the wrong time. But definitely, it was interesting. Next up, we had The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, and this really surprised me. Like, I had no idea that I would enjoy this at all. It's a historical fiction following kind of split timelines, a present day one, and then one following kind of 18th century, two 18th century women in London, and one of them is kind of the apothecary, kind of murderer, supposedly. That's kind of what they kind of call her after the modern day present kind of perspective finds this vial, and then from there the modern day perspective kind of she's trying to uncover the truth behind this vial and what the history is, and then the past perspectives are kind of explaining just how this apothecary kind of worked out. And I really just enjoyed kind of the alchemy and potion making, and just seeing kind of the past perspectives, like these two, like an older woman and a younger girl kind of connecting and just forming bonds after kind of, because the older perspective in the older woman, she lost her husband and her family, and then she's kind of just been alone, and she finds this kind of found family with this younger girl who also is kind of living in her own in London and kind of experiencing the city and everything. And it was heartwarming to kind of see their bonds formed, and just it was really fast paced in the kind of past perspectives, because they're on the run after some things go down and a potion kind of goes to the wrong person, and they're kind of on the run from the police. And I just enjoyed that kind of fast paced aspects to it. And then I was just able to connect with the present day perspective, as she is kind of loves history and English and just the kind of world of academia, and she is kind of, I just enjoyed kind of her discovering and meeting new people and traveling to different places in London to uncover what really happened to kind of the apothecary kind of murders, and who they were and what they did. And I just enjoyed just everything that was really going on with it, and it was good. It was surprising to me, but definitely give it a try. Then I picked up another YA fantasy, and that was Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. And this was interesting. I thought the setup for this was really kind of something I've never experienced before. This is basically following a world where the young women, they're not even kind of looked at, or kind of, they're basically looked down upon until they go into the ceremony where they have to draw blood. And then if your blood runs red, then you can have a husband and have a life, basically. But if it runs gold, then you're dead. You're sentenced to death. And I thought that was interesting. And then we know that this main perspective, Decca, her blood had run gold. And then she's kind of sentenced to death. But on her kind of, in the prison, in the jail, she is offered a position with the Emperor's kind of magical kind of group of young women and kind of troops that are going to take on these mysterious death streaks that are kind of plaguing the kingdom. And this witch kind of offers her a position among them. And then she travels to this training academy, and she is kind of learning, making new friends, and just killing some death streaks. But I just enjoyed kind of the different take and something I wasn't used to, and it was the world. The world was just so vibrant, and I was on board with it. It kind of reminded me of Ray Bear and just Black Panther, like those two thrown together. If you haven't read Ray Bear or watched Black Panther, definitely check those out, because this was very similar. And the only thing that I didn't like about it was the training aspects and kind of the little battle scenes that they had. They kind of got redundant. Like, they would go out on a kind of a raid, and then they would come back, train a little bit, and then go on another raid, and then just kept doing that, and it made the middle part of it pretty slow. But other than that, like, it was really great. And the ending was a bit kind of weird, or kind of a little bit like, I don't know how to explain the ending a little bit without spoiling it. But I can't wait to continue on with the next in the series. I don't think you guys are ready for these next two. I mention these all the time on my channel, so buckle in, because I'm going to mention them again. And that first one is going to be the second book in the Fireborn series, which was Flamefall by Rosaria Munda. Great. Just, I love this series and this world so much. Dragon Academy, and just basically, if you just imagine the Russian Revolution and dragons, throw them together, and you have this series in a YA fantasy. And I love dragons, and I love kind of the training academy aspect of it. It's got like a little bit of caste system, and just the characters. Like, I loved the characters so much. Like, you really feel for them, and especially in this one, you really feel for Annie a ton, because the other people kind of paint her as just evil, and she's really not. But I can't really go much in depth with this without spoiling the first one, the events of the first one. But basically in the first one, Annie and Lee are kind of in this training academy, and his family, or Lee is basically kind of the Anastasia of this kingdom after his family was basically murdered. He kind of works his way around the kingdom until he ends up at this orphanage where he meets Annie, and then together they go to this dragon academy to kind of ride some dragons and become part of the dragon clan. And yeah, from there, it's his family, some other parts of his family kind of start to show up, and there's just a bunch of drama going on, and it just goes on from there. But overall, like, I love the series, and I don't know if I can wait for the third and final book. I need it now. You ready for that next one? Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Probably one of my favorite books of the year. I love the setup for this, kind of the astronaut waking up with no memory, not knowing what to do, and having to uncover what his mission is and how to save the world. That's all you need to know, and it is great. Like, the humor, it's got like those dad jokes that are similar to his other two books. Out of his other two books, this is definitely my favorite. Out of all of his works that I've read, this is my favorite. It's got like another great character that I can't go into because of spoilers, but that character is a favorite. Like, he's just so special. And just like, this was heartwarming and heartbreaking all at the same time, but overall, great. And then we had a Greek mythology retelling, and that was Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, and this was very interesting. It's kind of following just the tale of Theseus and the Minotaur, but taking a spin of it and following kind of the two different perspectives of the princesses of Crete through Ariadne and her sister Phaedra. I hope I'm saying that right. But it was really interesting. I've always kind of been told Theseus is just a hero and the Minotaur is evil, and the Minotaur is kind of evil in this one as well. But I just was on board with kind of this different take on it, and kind of painting out the men and kind of the different gods, the Greek gods, as being just evil and not kind of taking advantage of women in the past, ancient times, like just depicting them as kind of evil. And I enjoyed kind of this different take on it, kind of like a feminist take on it. I also enjoyed just like the sisterly bonds that kind of are tested and formed throughout the story as kind of the events played out, and they're kind of split apart on different pathways. And it was really interesting to see how other gods kind of played into this, and just how it all worked out in the end. And then at the end, like, it had me on the verge of tears at just what was going on, and it was sad just throughout that. Like, that last, like, in the middle, it was kind of starting slow, and I was a bit worried, but then like the last 100 pages, like, it went crazy, and I couldn't put it down. And there at the end, I was on the verge of tears. But I think this has inspired me to pick up Circe and the Song of Achilles, because those are said to be kind of similar books to this, so I can't wait to dive into those. But overall, definitely give it a try. Next, I think this is the only romance on this list that I've read, and that is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. And the vacation vibes and everything was perfect. For this summer, when I was trapped in my apartment, I definitely went on some adventures with both these characters. And this was interesting because I don't read a lot of romance, and I've been trying to get into more, but I enjoyed this, like, really a lot. I enjoyed both of the characters, like Poppy, how she's a travel writer, and she's basically gets to go on all these vacations, and every year her and Alex kind of go on a vacation, and unfortunately to kind of an event that happened in Croatia, they kind of ceased that, and now they're trying to reconnect. and become friends again on a new vacation. And from there, it's a romance book. They're gonna fall in love, and I enjoyed kind of the angst. I thought it was perfect for kind of beginners like me. I didn't think it was over a lot or kind of too much to grasp, but just both characters are great. I was really able to connect with Alex, like he could be my older brother, I think. And then it was just awesome to kind of uncover the past and kind of figure out what went wrong and just go on these past kind of vacations and figure out the things that kind of made them friends and kind of how they strayed apart. Overall, it was really great, and I can't wait to pick up Beach Read by this same author. Another YA book I got was a sci-fi, and that was The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. And this this covered some sci-fi topics that might be present in the near future based on kind of climate change and everything going on. But I thought that the way that the kind of eco-cities are kind of floating in the city, and basically based on how you kind of treat the earth is how it will it bases your position in this eco-city and what you can and can't do. And I thought that was interesting, but I love these sisterly bonds that were in here. Like, it is it's like one of them, the sisters, it was hard to kind of connect with her because it felt like she didn't want to find one of her sisters. Like, I forgot to mention, but one of the sisters is basically trapped on an island, and her one goal and the only thing she wants to do is just get back to her sister, and she stops at nothing to do that. And the other sister is kind of trying to uncover what really happened to her sister. And basically, throughout the time, I was a bit skeptical as to whether she really cared or if she really wanted to find her sister. But then, as it kind of played out throughout the story, I really started to understand more, and it was just heartwarming and then heartbreaking all at the same time to just figure it out. Because there's split timelines, and I was a bit worried as to whether I would figure out how it would play out, but it definitely I was able to figure it out, and at the end my heart was broken, but it was also heartwarmed at the same time, and it was crazy, and I can't wait to check out more by the author. And it was just it was a quick read and a fun read. And then I got to one of the best mystery thrillers that I've read in quite some time, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I read The Silent Patient, and I loved that. Then I read this, and I loved this just as much. I loved the setup, the kind of the place that it took place in, Cambridge, dark academia, throw it all together, some Greek tragedy murders going on. I was on board with everything here, and it was really fast, and I was not able to guess who the murderer was until the end. And then once it was all laid out in front of me, I was like, no, Alex, you are crazy. This is not going to, how is this played out? And I had one guess going, and then I was kind of right about that. But then there was another twist, and it was crazy. And I enjoyed kind of the little Easter eggs about the silent patient in here as well. They're spread out through the book. So if you notice those as well, please let me know, because I haven't heard many people kind of talk about them, but I enjoyed that. Jumping into another YA fantasy, I got Witches, Steeps, and Gold by Sienna Smart. This was interesting. This is following kind of Jamaican mythology, and I've never experienced anything in Jamaican mythology or fantasy in general. But the setup was really cool. But I was confused until the 100-page mark. It felt like a giant kind of info dump, and I wasn't able to kind of grasp everything fully until the 100-page mark. But then once I kind of got a grasp, it got very interesting. It's very political heavy, and there's a lot of kind of different movements for each kind of different group vying for power and kind of trying to basically get their side on the throne. But I thought that the setup was really interesting. The magic system was really interesting as well. But other than that, it was very political and very slow burn until the last kind of 50 pages or so, and then it was kind of took off like that. You know how a lot of slow burn books are, they build, and then they kind of just vroom. So that was basically what this was. But other than that, I'll continue on with the series, but it was pretty confusing in the start, but it was still pretty great for a debut novel. Then we had another favorite of this year, and that is the Helm of Midnight by Marina J. Lotstetter. I haven't heard many people talk about this one, but it was great. It was like makes like fantasy and then a murder mystery. Throw that together, throw in a little bit of 18th century, kind of 17th century France, and you got this. You got this murder mystery going down with some fantasy elements. I was on board with just like the murder that was going on and kind of the regulators and the masks and the magic system, all of it. I was on board with everything going on, and it was great, and I can't wait. It's a series, and I can't wait. Oh, maybe not. I don't know if I can wait to continue on, but it was just great throughout. Like the masks, the way that the masks, I thought this was the coolest part of the story. How kind of past people can basically put different of their abilities and kind of characteristics into these masks, and then present day people can kind of wear these masks and harness those abilities and use them. And the regulators, they use this a lot in kind of their job. They're basically like the fantasy police, and when murders start happening from this one masks that kind of was stolen in this heist, they use these masks a lot, and it was just, it was like the religion, all of it. Like it might seem pretty complex, but it was like, I felt like the author kind of did pretty well kind of explaining everything that was going on. And it was definitely like, it was a fast read, and I loved it a lot. And the last new release that I've got to this year is Half Sick of Shadows by Lauren Sebastian. This is the tale of Camelot and Arthur, but following the Lady Elaine of Shalot's perspective and kind of her thoughts. And I thought it was interesting how it kind of played out, because she is an oracle and a seer, and she can basically see all the different possible timelines that are present. And I thought it was interesting how, because it would basically give you kind of like a possible timeline, and then like you're kind of left there on the edge of your seat with a little bit of suspense as to trying to figure out like which of these different timelines is going to play out in this book. And kind of she is doing everything she can. The whole gang, Morgana, Lancelot, Guinevere, they're all doing whatever they can to put Arthur on the throne. And the kind of the deeper meaning that I got from this was it all kind of worth it in the end to kind of split up the gang and kind of put them all in different places and kind of changed who they were? Like, was it worth it to put Arthur on the end? And overall, it was really great. It's not very it's mostly plot driven. There's not a lot of kind of fight scenes or action spread out through, so expect that kind of going in. And it's just basically the kind of their journey through the world of the Arthurian legend. And I enjoyed getting back into the Arthurian legend, as well as kind of learning more from past memories. And in Avalon's pretty cool. I would love to spend some time there, but overall it was really great. And yeah, this was the last one I read, and didn't disappoint. But those were all the new releases that I've got to this year. If you would like to see another video like this at the end of the year, I can cover all of them again. But I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know any of your thoughts if you picked up any of these, and what are some new releases you've read that I haven't covered today. That's all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you in the next adventure. I post new videos every 2 to 3 times a week, so look out for those. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'll put those down there in the description box as well. And almost forgot to mention, I've recently started a book club called the Biblionauts, and I'll make sure to leave the link to the Discord server down there as well. But I hope you all have a splendid day, and I'm going to leave you with a message from Ellie, who said that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.